Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
There's some whores in this town. Wet ass keyword.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, you all know what time it is. Oh yeah, we got a good show for y'all today. So, welcome. It's Wednesday. Like I said, we got a fantastic show for you all. We have burning Christmas trees. They really are outshining all others. Fun. We have another conservative group. Makes Mike Pillow sad, or at least would, because they just put out another report about how, turns out, where's the fraud? Didn't happen. Fun. We've got that story. We have, Mike Pillow running away from an interview with a British documentary maker. That's fun. We got some pillow talk coming on. We've got a hilarious reaction to a poll, very small poll done, that showed that younger Democrats no longer want to date Trump voters. Oh, that's a fun story. Oh, the molding. It's so great. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the Kellogg strike. There's an update to that as well. Important labor news. So we're going to get to all those stories, of course, today. Before I do, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out, as always. Much appreciation to you for doing that. Now, before we get to it, earlier today, I was on Ring of Fire. That was fun. So to give you an update on that, the video is going to come out. It's actually quite long, probably almost an hour, that we had a conversation about Biden's first year, about Republicans, about what I think or we think the Democrats can do to avoid a disastrous midterm election, all that stuff. And we even touched on some left-wing media. And so that was not live. That was a pre-tape that's going to come out by either the end of this week or released next week. I will, of course, retweet it on Twitter when I get that and direct that to you as well. Probably share that in the YouTube community tab, so check that out. That's an excellent discussion. We had a lot of fun. Great discussion. So everybody give a shout out, and a follow to Fair and Cousins. So at Fair and Balanced, as usual, great conversation. All right, now, with that said, let's dive into the story, shall we? Fun. Old. Boom. Let's start out with some voter fraud. Bad news for Mike Pillow and anyone else who still believes the D20 election was stolen from Donald Trump, which is quite a few Republicans. A right-wing conservative group, this is a legal group, recently found no evidence of voter fraud in Wisconsin during the 2020 election because, of course, there was none. There was no fraud to find. Not at all. Nonetheless, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, also known as WILL, a far-right nonprofit legal firm that has sued to stop mass mandates among many of its other initiatives, had conducted a 10-month review of Wisconsin's 2020 election. So I'm giving you the context of that group and what they stand for and some of the stuff that they've advocated for. Very conservative positions, very, Trump MAGA positions on things like mass mandates, etc. And even they're like, yeah, we looked into it. We looked into it for 10 whole months, and we still did not find a goddamn thing. Here's what they said. And this is very... okay, this is directly related to the defamation suit by Dominion Voting Systems, suing a bunch of different people. I think Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell, Sidney Powell, suing all those people, Kraken Lady, I think, or at least had threatened lawsuits to all or most of them. And, and that's about the election lie. Now, Will had said this, quote, "There is no evidence of significant problems with voting machines." Oops. Hey, Mike, go suck on a pillow. Say that. Again, very, very obvious. Now, what they also found was interesting. So this is their review, even though it fairly matched up pretty closely to what the official Wisconsin Election Commission had found during their own audit and review of the election. They found that Trump had won communities that used Dominion voting machines with 57.2%. So he actually won more often in the districts, in the places in Wisconsin that had Dominion voting machines. Well, gee, that's fascinating. Now, they also noted, Will could not access voting machines as part of this review, but we did model the various machines to evaluate their effect on the outcome of the election. Just 14.7% of Wisconsin jurisdictions employ the Dominion voting machines, maligned by many as a culprit in changing votes for Joe Biden. So now that's also interesting. But Mike Lindell is going around the country and saying, the Dominion voting machines hacked by China, changed the election results, and stole it from Donald Trump, gave it to Joe Biden, and then what we found, 14.7% of the entire state of Wisconsin used the voting machines. Well, he did, and again, he did better in places where you had machines. Now, that actually means Democrats did worse in those areas, which is actually kind of terrible news for the country overall. But I'll get to that later, I guess. But, wow, there it is. Mike Pillow destroyed with facts and logic by a conservative group. And it's funny because this is the kind of group that really, really wanted to find, desperate to find, voter fraud. And that's it. They wanted to find it. They couldn't find it. They couldn't manufacture it. And so, they couldn't present something that wasn't there. That said, Will, being a conservative group and all, had to push some sort of narrative. They had to do something, right? And so here's what the report stated. They said, it is almost certain that in Wisconsin's 2020 election, the number of votes that did not comply with existing legal requirements exceeded Joe Biden's margin of victory. Oh no! Uh-oh. Now, that suggests, of course, that basically it's sending the message, hey, you've got some things to work on so we can rig elections. That's my read of it. But then again, the report also added after that, this does not necessarily mean that Biden did not win a majority of those votes and those eligible to vote, but the questions of fraud and unlawful processes are related. There was no evidence of widespread voter fraud in all likelihood. More eligible voters cast ballots for Joe Biden than Donald Trump. We found little direct evidence of fraud, and for the most part, an analysis of the results and voting patterns does not give rise to an inference of fraud. There it is. Once again, our hand review found that the counts closely matched those reported by the Wisconsin Elections Commission. The review found no evidence of fraudulent ballots. The wards Will review came from Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Fox Crossing, Macon, Waukesha, and West Bend. In many of the wards examined, Will found a significant number of voters who voted for Biden and a Republican for Congress, while far fewer voters split the other way. This is consistent with the explanation that a key driver of Trump's loss was a segment of traditional Republican voters choosing not to support him. And once again, here we are. Now, look, the result of that, of course, is COVID. Again, the Republican Party, Donald Trump lost in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. Hands down, I absolutely believe that is the case. Again, that's the party that has literally been killing their own base with anti-vax and anti-mask bullshit and conspiracies. And again, you look at that, and some Republican voters, the ones who are basically in it for the tax cuts and are like, no, I'm not really down with killing people, at least our own. I'm out. I'm going to vote for Biden. He's at least somewhat competent compared to Donald Trump. Again, low bar. Now, let me give you an example, by the way, of, and maybe that's a bad example of somebody who voted for Biden instead. I don't know how they voted, but look, people who in it for the tax cuts or, are just not in it for Donald Trump or whatever, those Republicans do exist. In fact, they're no longer Republicans anymore. Some are probably Democrats now. But, again, I have family that's conservative. My wife's family, Christian conservative. They took COVID very seriously. I remember when it started, they were very strict about making sure that everybody was masked. If there was a gathering, that it would be very small. People stayed in small groups. And then when the vaccine came out, of course, they went and got it and encouraged everyone else to get it. So those Republicans do exist. And for that, I think for people like that who care, about health and about the health of their families, at least, they're like, yeah, Trump's doing a horrible job on COVID, and we can't support that. I'm sorry. We got to do something that's a little bit more sensible and support someone who isn't going to say, drink bleach or stick a light up your ass, and that'll kill COVID. No, disastrous. But as I said, COVID, had it not happened, Donald Trump, I think, would have absolutely been in his second term right now. The Democratic field, other than Bernie Sanders, very weak. Again, Joe Biden, not anybody's first. That said, one more thing about the report and the narrative. They couldn't invent instances of voter fraud, but they did do something else. They decided to point to widespread alleged abandonment of proper voting procedure. Now, here's what they're talking about. Absentee ballots. Now this is also this is the more lighter version of we think that there's problems with the 2020 election and we need to fix them. This is not full like, oh, we have voter fraud and it's bad and massive voter fraud. They had so much, and then you had the
dumps, big massive dumps.
The dumps. They took dumps all over the place. Voter ballot dumps everywhere. So many dumps. No, they're not doing that because they're like, yeah, that's insane. We have nothing to back that up. But these people are at least going to the, oh, there were procedures that were problems. That we had problems with procedures, okay? And so that big one, of course, is the absentee ballots in the drop boxes. They hate the drop boxes. The widespread adoption of the absentee ballot drop boxes, they said, not provided for under Wisconsin law, was correlated with an increase of about 20,000 votes for Joe Biden while having no significant effect on the votes for Trump. I find that framing very interesting because, here you have them pointing out, I can't believe people, did the absentee ballots voted more for Joe Biden. Yeah, and that's because most Democrats during that time, abided by COVID restrictions and decided to take advantage of absentee voting. And that's it. Instead of going in person like Republicans and risking illness. That's the simple explanation. And they're saying, oh my God, the drop boxes are a problem. Big drop boxes and the absentee ballots. Oh, we don't like that at all. Now, Will also, though, does not claim that the voters who used drop boxes were ineligible or should have had their votes rejected. But they said that the ad hoc adoption of absentee ballot drop boxes without established rules, parameters, or security presents an election vulnerability and a challenge to state law. So now understand that the reason that there were so many drop boxes is, again, going back to COVID, right? These were extenuating circumstances adopted during a health crisis. I mean, again, COVID, kind of an unprecedented pandemic, okay, that we have not seen before. And so, at least in our lifetimes. And so, of course, you had to go, oh my God, what do we do? Well, we got to do something. Boxes. Let's put the drop boxes out. Let's do the absentee, ramp them up so that we can have an election. Okay. Now, they also went on to say that this had exempted over 250,000 voters from voter ID requirements. Oh no! And then added, many red flags here from people who claiming to be indefinitely confined during COVID. So that's something that you can claim so that you don't have to go out and vote in person, that you can get an absentee ballot. And they're saying, too many people, I can't believe how many people claim that they're, that they're indefinitely confined. Pandemic? No. But, okay. Now, they also went on to criticize the maintenance of voter rolls because they like voter roll purges. They advocated for numerous changes that would have been expected from a conservative group, of course. For example, going after ballot harvesting. They hate ballot harvesting. Now, ballot harvesting sounds ominous, like, oh, they're going around with like a scythe and they're harvesting the ballots. I don't know. That's the thing that I get in my head because I'm a weirdo. But no, what it really is just allows a representative to go around and collect ballots for people who have authorized them to collect their ballot and to turn them in. And that's it. Oh, but it bypasses voter ID. Okay, but here's the thing. With a country that is so apathetic about voting as we are in this country, and a voter fraud rate of basically, 0.0004%? Infinitesimally low. It actually makes no sense to have voter ID in this country. It really doesn't. Again, you have a fraud rate that is so incredibly low. It doesn't make any sense. Again, if there was actual data suggesting that there was a need for voter ID, that we had a a massive problem with people impersonating others and bypassing, votes or ways to, the security of elections, the integrity of elections, then yes, I would be in favor of something like that. But we don't have that. What this is so far right now, this is a roadblock to stop black people and poor people from voting. People who can't go out there and easily get an ID because we don't really send them out. We expect you to travel and wait in line at the DMV or the Secretary of State's office. And so, and those services are not necessarily as available in areas where you're in the inner city or in low income areas. And of course, why would you go there if you're one of those people who takes public transportation and doesn't own a car? So, there's that. Yeah. Now, the facts, again, do not support a need for a voter ID system. Okay? But, again, there you have it. Trump and the pillow guy proven wrong when it comes to claims about massive voter fraud by their own side. Defeated by themselves. Again. Awesome. Okay. All right. Let's go to Mike Pillow. Okay. Mike Pillow recently stormed out of an interview, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell sure loves his conspiracy theories. Big lie, of course, about the 2020 election is something that he has spent considerable amount of time and money pushing. However, there seems to be one conspiracy theory group that he does not want to be associated with. QAnon. Oh, fun. So now Lindell, after his 96-hour Thanksgiving fail-a-thon, is traveling the road again to talk about the big lie along with his friend Michael Flynn. Now, they recently stopped to speak to a British documentary crew, and, well, it led to this moment.
What's your opinion on Q?
What is it?
You know what it is at this point.
A group of people that don't like pedophilia? You're asking a stupid question.
You wouldn't even ask that if you were doing an interview.
Why is it a stupid
You're
question?
here to interview. This
Why
is the big lie. It doesn't matter who stands behind us or who doesn't stand. Yeah. The evidence, the truth shall set you free. I think the interview's over. Wasted my time.
Well, why does it need to be offensive?
Because that's the way you all are. That's a joke what you did.
Okay.
Shame on
Thank
you.
you very
Shame
much.
on you. People like you that have hurt our country.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, before I get to Mike Lindell, I just want to point out the fun. I think the funnest part about this is actually Michael Flynn. So Michael Flynn, the guy's like, "What do you think about Q?" And he's like, "What? I don't. What about Q? I don't know Q. What are you talking about? QAnon. Q what? Q anus? What is that? Some sort of Star Trek thing? Q? I don't know what you're talking about. They don't like pedophiles? I don't know. I don't know what's going on." Oh, you know what it is. He knows what it is because he's only been riding QAnon for years to make money. Again, for those who don't know, this is a group that believes that a satanic cabal of Democrats. Yes, already crazy. Not only the Democrats, but the media, the billionaires, Hollywood celebrities are somehow trafficking children and drinking their blood, and that Trump was put in power by agents of Q, whatever this person is, in order to fight the deep state cabal, and that some have even considered Michael Flynn himself to be Q. And then, as a result of Donald Trump being in power, somehow there's going to lead to the storm. That's going to be where Trump does the mass arrests, and he throws them into Gitmo and all that weirdo stuff. Okay. Now, here's the thing. It's all BS. Of course it's BS. And look, Michael Flynn, he knows it's BS. It's complete and utter garbage. And yet, he has ridden off this for money. And he has shown a lot of, and this is a lot of public appearances, by the way, of where he's like going along and giving QAnon signals and taking oaths. He sold QAnon merchandise. He auctioned off a QAnon quilt. And he appeared at a QAnon convention, signed books with a QAnon slogan. And again, some people even think that he's Q. And look, that's, there's a lot of ties. There's a lot of ties between Michael Flynn and QAnon. And of course, QAnon has a lot of ties with January 6th. There was a lot of QAnon supporters that thought that January 6th was that storm. Okay. And so obviously that was a failure, never happened. I mean, January 6th happened, but the storm did not. There was no storm. Donald Trump lost. He got pushed out of power. That's it. That's what happened. And yet, afterwards, Michael Flynn and QAnon kept going and buying into, what is it? The election fraud conspiracy championed by Mike Lindell. And so that right there, that's a correlation. They're all connected in this way because I think, well, the deep state forced, forced Trump out of power by rigging the election against Donald Trump for Joe Biden. And so in order to keep Joe Biden in power and to stop QAnon and the storm from happening. And so, again, just imagine somebody like, this is like Glenn Beck scribbling on a whiteboard for like a half hour with little weirdo pictures of people of like, oh, we got Hillary Clinton over here, and then we got this over here, and we got Jeffrey Epstein over here. We got all that stuff going on here, and there's a definite correlation with all of this stuff into QAnon. No. Now, it gets a little more serious than just making fun of them, though. Because on Memorial Day weekend, and this was according to a report from The Intercept, Flynn had headlined a Q-themed conference in Dallas where he had endorsed a Myanmar-style military coup aimed at reinstating Donald Trump as president, to which, of course, he later on backtracked massively. So all of that context is to basically illustrate how, Michael Flynn has been lying about QAnon, his ties to QAnon, how he feels about QAnon, and not just to QAnon, but also to everyone else, and then lies about QAnon to QAnon. So there's lying everywhere. There's so much grifting going on. But here's the thing. Michael Flynn has been exposed. And we know that. Because here you had his former Q buddy, Lynn Wood, big old friends in the QAnon movement. They had a fight over Kyle Rittenhouse, which of course led to this video of Michael Flynn basically saying, "Oh, QAnon, it's garbage." Take a look.
I'm tired of these QAnon people attacking me.
Maybe, I don't know that.
But you know some of them.
I think it's a disinformation campaign. I think it's a disinformation campaign that the CIA created. That's what I believe now. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I think it is. I think it's a disinformation campaign. It's actually a very interesting article today out that was sent to me. I'll send it to you about how the QAnon movement has failed and all that. But I find it total nonsense, and I think it's a disinformation campaign created by the left, and the types of people that can create something like that are the kinds of people that we train for certain with certain skills in the CIA.
I'm aware that the CIA does
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was.
Yeah, I'm aware the CIA does programs where they'll give you 75% of the truth and then wrap it in a package that makes you look crazy to demean the truth they gave you.
Oh, I never get tired of playing that video. So, look, again, oh, yeah, the QAnon, the thing that I profited off for so long, oh, turns out that's a CIA op. Now, how does Mike Pillow fit in? Well, again, as I mentioned, there's a tie between the election fraud stuff, the lie, to QAnon. And so it's again, one of those connections here that they have. The whole idea that the deep state and the so-called, pedophile cabal, basically the same thing, okay? And the idea of the coming storm and the reinstatement of Trump and all the rightful American leaders, again, same thing, same concept, different language. Now, I don't know if Mike Pillow's smart enough to realize that there's a connection here, or is just barely smart enough to realize I don't want to be associated with this because I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm already down my own hole, thank you. So I don't know. Whatever you believe, the reaction kind of says it all. He does not want to talk about QAnon, doesn't want to be associated with QAnon. He doesn't want to hitch himself to that wagon, and neither does anyone else. And maybe it's because Michael Flynn's like, realize this is all just a grift, right? Or, oh no, maybe he does believe from Michael Flynn that, oh, the QAnon disinformation campaign for the left. But then again, if that's what he believed, then why didn't he say so on camera? Oh, I don't believe in QAnon. I think they're wackadoos. Whatever. I don't know. I don't necessarily know. But all I know is that he doesn't want to get involved with QAnon, at least publicly, and that does say something. I think this might be the beginning of the end for the mainstreaming of QAnon. Of course, it'll probably exist. It'll change names. It'll go to a different conspiracy, whatever. But I think this is close to the end of being the mainstream power of QAnon. At least according to our reaction from our Pillowy Herald. All right. Move on. Go to burning Christmas trees. All right. Hold on. Let me adjust something real quick. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a quick break and set this up. So we'll do that. We'll take a super, super fast break, and we'll come back. We got the Fox News Christmas tree story. I think I love it. Stay right here around the nation. show. Run the nation right here. Waldorf Nation. All right, so before I get started back into the stories here, I just want to thank Kathleen for resubbing for a month at Tier 1. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. You can help us out by, of course, subscribing to us on Twitch. You can, of course, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything extra, and it goes to help the show. So a lot of wonderful things that you can do. You can also subscribe on Facebook. That's a new thing that you can do if you want to help out the show. Thank you to all the subscribers that we have so far. Really killing it on Facebook. So thank you all for tuning in, for being here on the live show. You all are absolutely amazing. Thank you. Also, another thing that you can do, stars. 10 stars. That's kind of cool as well. So that's like a little bit of a tip. Again, kind of like setting bits on Twitch. And also super chats on YouTube. So there's a lot of different ways that you can support the show, support independent progressive media. And if you don't feel like doing all that, totally fine. If there's another way that you want to support us without involving these, big tech, you can join our Patreon, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. All right, so that's it. Like and share the stream. Let's dive back in. Okay. Last night, an arsonist went after the Fox News Christmas tree, which means it's time we're on Christmas.
Over the years, we've taken on the role of protecting the federal holiday of Christmas.
They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct.
There are some Americans who are offended by any reference to Jesus Christ.
Do you realize that Starbucks wanted to take Christ and Christmas off of their brand new cups? That's why they're just plain red.
They'll say Happy New Year, and they'll say other things.
In fact, do you realize that Starbucks isn't allowed to say Merry Christmas to customers?
There's a full-out war on faith in this country by the other side.
We're saying Merry Christmas again.
We're saying Merry Christmas again, everybody. All right, so now here's what we know. BBC New York reported that earlier this morning, a 49-year-old man, homeless man, had climbed a Christmas tree and lit it on fire. All right, so look, investigators at first could not confirm an incendiary device was used. Later on, he was found with a lighter, though they're saying, well, we don't know if he used a lighter. He used a lighter. Come on. That's the only thing he had in his pocket. But I want to show you the video here of the actual, the destruction, the damage that has been wrought. All right, so look, that audio wasn't mine. It wasn't my show, wasn't my computer. But anyway, that's just to explain why it sounded terrible. But okay, there it is. Tree on fire. So look, again, this was the person who did this was he was charged with a lot of different crimes as a result of this. And look, here's the thing: don't go burning trees. Not a good idea. Even if they're fake plastic Fox News trees, don't burn them. People could have been hurt. Obviously, not a good thing to do. Now, with that out of the way, let's go to some unhinged reactions from the right. Starting with Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain. Here's what she said. I don't want to hear anything about how radical some of you believe Republicans to be. There are lunatics running around New York City setting Fox News Christmas trees on fire. So now that that tweet was deleted because it was cringe. Total, absolute cringe. Again, setting fire to artificial trees, not good, don't do it. But January 6th, literally people did die. And there was much more vandalism that had happened. But that's not even the worst level hot take. And there were plenty. Brian Kilmeade. Here's what Brian Kilmeade said. Homeless whack job burned our Fox News Christmas tree to the ground. Lawless NYC. Thanks, NYPD and FDNY for scrambling so rapidly to help. Wait. Oh, okay, wait. Brian Kilmeade. Brian Kilmeade says, oh my God, New York City somehow super incredibly lawless because of the Democrats. But thank you so much for the very rapid police and fire response. What? Do you not see the contradiction? Honestly, do you not see the contradiction? Of course not. He works at Fox News. Seriously. All right. Now, again, more information about this man. His name is Craig Amanahe. And look, the guy's homeless. That part is correct. And he has had some mental issues and some issues with, small arrests for public intoxication, drug possession. There's no political motive here. So let's just say that. Now, that's important to note because later on, you're going to hear how somehow this is Biden's fault. Of course. But now let me give you more details. So now he's expected to appear in court on Wednesday on charges of criminal mischief, reckless endangerment, arson, criminal nuisance, criminal trespass, criminal tampering, endangering others, and disorderly conduct. Police Commissioner Dermot Shea revealed that the investigators were considering whether mental illness had played a part in the arson. Shea said, the motive I don't think is clear at this point. It's an individual that is known to us. He has had a series of low-level arrests and drug arrests. He was issued earlier this year for some appearance tickets and didn't come back to court, which is unfortunately something we see all too often. Also, he has some low-level arrests out of state. The guy's got some issues, no doubt about it. Needs some health care, some help to get him out of his addiction, mental health care, a home, things like that. Okay, now, there's more hot takes. Now, Gianna Codwell called it, quote, one of the most hateful acts. Hateful. Now, again, there's no motive here. The guy's just like, I don't know, I'm going to burn a tree down. Why not? Well, you shouldn't. But he's like, I guess, whatever. So this isn't motivated against conservatives or Fox News. Again, ridiculous to even think that this is a possibility, that people are thinking this, but they are, unfortunately. Now, Dagan McDowell pointed out the New York Times headline saying, tree catches fire. Well, it didn't spontaneously combust. A dangerous individual set the tree on fire. Sadly predictable. And of course, that's trashing the New York Times and saying, oh my God, quote unquote, liberal media covering for a Christmas tree arsonist. Must be the Democrats' fault. Now, here's what the New York Times is trying to do. They're trying to be super neutral, right? And saying, oh, well, we got to make sure to know the facts first before we say this and that. And so, we got to use alleged. It's the same thing, right? But and people harp on that stuff all the time. That's not evidence of a bias. If anything, they're just being super careful so they don't get sued. But anyway, you can't really win with some of these people. But here's the thing. The right wing's using this as a way to attack Joe Biden and the Democrats, and even, and we haven't seen this quite yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to later on prove that there's a war on Christmas. Now, the first thing that I said is that, they're going to use this to attack Joe Biden. Well, that's exactly what Ronna McDaniel, head of the RNC, literally did. Here's what she said on Fox News.
What this poll is telling us is we're going to take back the House and the Senate, and the American people want to change. Biden's underwater. Harris's approval is under 30%. And Republicans are more trusted on three key issues: the economy, inflation, and crime. And these are issues we're seeing every day on our streets, around our home, in our communities, on the news. Look at your Christmas tree that was just burned down. This is a huge problem for Democrats.
This is a huge problem for Democrats. Why? This has nothing to do with the Democrats. Seriously. Wow. Now, again, there's no war on Christmas as well. This entire thing's made up. But what is real is the issue with homelessness, addiction, and crime. Those are real things, right? Now, unfortunately, there are members of both parties that don't want to deal with any of those issues. They don't want to deal with it. And by deal, I mean actually solving the root causes of those things, which, as I mentioned, both Democrats and Republicans generally don't want to do. Progressives do want to solve those issues. Democrats kind of, and you see it again with New York City, LA, they kind of want to sweep it under the rug. Although I remember a story you probably did back in 2014 where there was a Democratic congressman in Hawaii who was literally going out there with a bat and smashing up homeless people's carts. Like they had a shopping cart, they keep their valuables in it. And this guy's like, oh, no, you don't. I mean, you think about it this way. The liberal response to homelessness is to paint a bench rainbow colors while putting anti-homeless spikes up in it. Like, that's a thing. That's a thing. So, no, nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to actually solve the actual problems because we as a culture are still overly punitive and think, homelessness is a character flaw, and that's your problem and not a societal flaw. So that said, that's the reaction, okay? And by the way, New York, you can't blame Republicans here. Democrats are in power. They're not dealing with the homelessness. But that's not to say that if you put the Republicans in power, they're going to do anything better. It's just they're not interested. They're not interested. But getting back to the reaction here, okay? So this is what conservatives are triggered by. Not the attack on the, congressional building. Not the assault on reproductive rights. Hell, they're leading the assault on reproductive rights. They're not worried about working people that are being crushed by corporations. Working conditions that are incredibly poor in this country, wages, anything that helps the material conditions of the average person. No, they're not even concerned about the constant demonization of Black and LGBTQ plus Americans. In fact, once again, they're leading that. They're leading the attacks against immigrants. But when it comes to a Christmas tree burning, there's the outrage. The eyes open immediately. Oh, outrage! The tree is on fire. We're on Christmas. There's your outrage. There's your outrage. Once again, it really does tip their hand and show that they really care way more about property and symbolism, and of course trying to stick it to the other side, than actual people, human beings. But hey, you know what this means? At least we're going to get more War on Christmas segments. That's always fun. Silver linings. Okay. All right. Moving on. MAGA's pretty angry about a new poll that had just come out showing that young Democratic voters don't want to date Trump supporters. Oh, fun. Now, Axios first reported this with the headline, Young Dems more likely to despise the other party. I love your framing, Axios. That's just great. Now, the study itself looked at about 850 college students, so it was a very, very small sample size, right? Nonetheless, the findings that they have are triggering the right. Now, they found that 71% of Democrats polled, again, these are young college students, would not go on a date with somebody who voted for Donald Trump. Whereas 31% of Republicans surveyed said that they would not go on a date with a Biden voter. So it's all reversed. The numbers are almost reversed. I mean, look at that. That is amazing. So again, in that small sample, you got a majority of young Democrats that are like, yeah, no chuds. I don't like no chuds. Chud is a guy that ain't get no love from me. Oh my God, I gotta stop singing. All right. I apologize to all of you for that. All right. Anyway, now the poll also found 4 out of 10 Democrats would not shop or support a business of Trump voters. Just 7% of Republicans felt the same way about Biden voters. 3 in 10 Biden voters would not work for someone who voted for Trump. Just 7% of Trump voters felt that way about a Biden voting boss. So you might look at this and be like, oh my God, I can't believe these libs are so triggered. Trump supporters, way more accepting, welcoming these stuck-up libs. All we're trying to do is we're just trying to make America great again. No. Here's the thing. If you know anything about Donald Trump's positions on policy, they're disastrous. Again, there's incredibly sexist policy coming out of the right wing. They're against reproductive rights. They want to try to get rid of the right to have an abortion, women's reproductive rights, bodily autonomy. You realize the majority of America is pro-choice, especially when you talk about women. Catholic women, for example, I think 99% take some sort of birth control. And the reason I point that out is that there are some model legislation that conservatives have tried to put out that target, again, with these personhood bills, for example, that would target certain forms of birth control that prevent implantation of a fertilized egg into the what is it, the uterus. Oh God, now I'm starting to sound like a Republican, not knowing the body parts. Okay, anyway, but like I said, they're against reproductive rights. They put literally 3 Federalist Society judges on the bench who could very well decide to eliminate the right to an abortion for women. And so now, and that's not the only issue, of course, but I can understand why that would make women not want to have sex with you. You look at things like healthcare, Planned Parenthood, even, which provides things that are way more things than just abortions. Okay, actually, they provide a lot of women's healthcare, and they do so for free. So that's a very important thing that has been nonstop attacked by Republicans, by Trump voters, by MAGA. Again, you look at healthcare in general, Trump care. Remember that? That was worse than what we have now, which is already not great. It would have given anybody, free or affordable health care. No, it would have put people in high-risk pools, which would have created a death spiral in our system. He said the minimum wage should be nothing. Younger people, more progressive on economic issues, more progressive on social issues. And so obviously we're also talking about Democrats here that are like, well, obviously, if you support a guy who wants my wages to be nothing, the minimum wage to be nothing, so they can set it as low as they want and have a race to the bottom, I'm not interested in you. I'm just not interested. Not to mention all the horrible sexist shit that he said on Twitter before he got yeeted. And so, yeah, there's plenty of reasons there to not want to associate with people who support Trump. And besides, there's also an opposition to vaccines and masking, wanting to, sacrifice grandma to the almighty stunk market. Turns out a lot of people love grandma. So, and look, the other thing too is that you've noticed, at least I have, I've noticed that there are a lot of people who are, hardcore MAGA, right? That just feel like they're part of some weirdo fan club that run around trying to trigger the libs. And that's it. Well, congratulations. You have indeed triggered the libs. So much so that they don't want to date you or have sex with you. Nailed it. Congratulations. Wow. Well done. Well done. again, this kind of reminds me of the woman who was alt-right. Okay, and she was complaining in a video that she was not getting any sort of respect from her male alt-right compatriots. You know who those people are, right? You know what they believe in? You know they don't believe that women should have rights like voting rights, and do not believe women are equal. They hate any kind of feminism, not just like the third, fourth wave, whatever. No, they hate all feminism. I mean, do you know who these people are? Do you know who these people are? I mean, seriously, what did you expect? And so it is kind of ironic that, you know, a lot of the MAGA chums are getting super triggered by this poll because they're like, oh no, Democrat women don't want to date me. Oh no. When asked, by the way, too, if they would be friends with someone who voted for Trump, more than 1 in 3 Biden voters said no. But just 5% of Trump voters said that they could not be friends with a Biden voter. And so that's also indicative of I guess, more of an outrage on the left about the positions taken by the right wing. In fact, here's what Axios explains. Democrats argued that the modern GOP positions, spearheaded by former President Trump, are far outside the mainstream and polite conversation. But for those on the left, it goes even deeper. And by the way, one of you said something really interesting here, pointed out Madison Cawthorn. I didn't get to cover that video, but during a debate, Madison Cawthorn, and this was when he was speaking in Congress, talked about how women are nothing more than earthen vessels for bearing children. So that's all they are. And again, voting rights also very important. Democrats, obviously Democrats in favor of voting rights. Republicans not. And so, yeah, but there's more. As Axios explains, some have expressed unyielding positions on matters of identity, including abortion, LGBTQ plus rights, and immigration, where they argue human rights and not just policy differences are at stake. And I agree with that. That's absolutely true. 100%. Another reaction here. This is attorney and former DOJ, this is Trump DOJ spokesperson, Sarah Isgur. She commented on this poll saying, quote, doesn't bode well. And no kidding. One former Maine state senator also wrote this, the party of tolerance. And radio host Ross Kaminsky, former board member for the Heartland Institute, which denies climate change. That's another important policy difference. That is a huge, huge problem. Said this, remember which side of the political aisle spends all their time talking about tolerance and diversity? You realize tolerance doesn't mean we have to put up with you, right? That doesn't mean we have to voluntarily spend our time and date people who do not share our values. So, like, here's the thing. Like, okay, you gotta be in society with these people. I get it, right? We might have to work together, you know, work with the chuds. That doesn't mean I'm forced to go to the bar with you after work. You're not entitled to my free time, bitch. All right? I don't want to spend my free time with people like this. All right? But again, it's the entitlement mentality. Oh, how dare women choose not to date or have sex with me? And again, this is what young Democrats are saying. Like, we don't want to have sex with you. We don't want to date you. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because I get to choose who I can spend time with. I get to choose who I want to have a relationship with. And I don't want to choose people like you guys. And yet, they're like, how dare you make it, make a personal decision not to have sex with me because I love Trump and I love triggering the libs and not giving a shit about other people. How dare you? You're discriminating against me. Right? Really not making a good case if you're saying that. You know what I'm saying? It's just, again, ridiculousness. Look, I'm not. I feel like I'm kind of broad brushing a little bit too much. Even though, again, I'm trying not to, but I did. But here's the thing. Bottom line, dating is hard, and people are complicated. Look, I've been married for 10 years. I'm happily married. I'm so happy I don't have to go into the dating pool. Disastrous. It's horrible. Horrible. Not interested at all. But let me give you a weird example of how love can be complicated and how relationships obviously can absolutely transcend political lines. And again, let me couch this in the context of, you remember reading a lot of stories, I do, during the Trump administration, where you had couples that decided to break up because one member is a MAGA Trump voter, or of course you have people falling down the QAnon pipeline, etc., or alt-right pipeline, and their partner's like, no, I can't handle this. Like, gone. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. All right. But again, love's complicated. And sometimes those relationships that are cross-political do happen to work. I have a weird example in my own family. My aunt's a Bernie supporter. Loves Bernie Sanders. Voted for him in the primaries. Absolutely. Right? But she is married to a Trump-supporting Republican. And they don't get along at all politically. I mean, this guy's like, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, you're going to put the 5G in my veins. And she's like, I'm off to go get my vaccine now. Somehow, it seems to work. Somehow. So, again, I give you that example is, look, it's because love is weird. Human beings are weird. It's complicated. And so this isn't too uncommon. But again, it is interesting to see the younger generation that is, starting to say, no, this is my line. I'm not going to date a chud. I'm not at all interested in MAGA or anyone on that side, in that persuasion. Sorry. So, again, very interesting trend. And I'd love to see a larger sample size than 850 people, college students that are polled. Maybe they should get on that. That would be very interesting. Okay. Notice right-wing marches had no women in them, says Prane. At least leftists can meet other people to date at events and things they support. Let's see. We just never talked politics. I dated a girl whose family were donors to Ross Perot back in the day. Well, Ross Perot was right about the giant sucking sound. So, true. All right. Let's move on. We got one more story here. We got the Kellogg's. The Kellogg's company is planning to hire permanent scab labor. Now, those, of course, who are people who are not unionized to replace the striking workers, and they're going to hire them on permanently. Now, this is following the rejection of the company's recent pathetic contract attempt with the major union that represents these workers. In fact, according to NPR, and this is reporting by NPR, this is actually a statement from Kellogg North America President Chris Hood, saying, after 19 negotiation sessions in 2021 and still no deal reached, we will continue to focus on moving forward to operate our business. He said the company had no choice but to continue executing the next phase of its contingency plan, hiring replacement scab employees. Now, he added, while certainly not the result we had hoped for, we must take the necessary steps to ensure business continuity. We have an obligation to our customers and consumers to continue providing the cereals they know and love. Now, look, I can do without the cereals. Especially if you're hiring scab labor, I ain't gonna ever touch your cereal again. So let's just be very, very clear about that. But again, this statement is more of like, we're really upset that the union did not take the crumbs that we had offered. And let me give you details on that. In the tentative 5-year agreement announced last week, the changes would have included both a 3% wage hike for longtime legacy employees, as well as increases for both newer transitional workers and new hires based on years of service. Now, you might think, wait, they're getting a raise. What's the problem? What's going on? Well, they also decided to bring in something called a 2-tiered wage system, which, if implemented, would actually create a separation between new and old employees. Those in the lower tiers would actually make about $11 to $12 less than higher tier peers, while also having higher insurance premiums. I mean, you got to pay more out of pocket for your insurance while you're making less money, and less vacation time. Fascinating. Now, the contract also didn't really address working conditions. Now, there were reports of workers being overworked massively. In fact, Kerry Williams, a mechanic who has worked at the Lancaster factory for about 18 years, told Vice's Motherboard, "We're working 12 to 16 hours a day to meet the increased demand in the cereal market." Now, apparently they offer these very little crumbs, and you only get a wage, 3% wage increase in our contract, and not only that, but people who are there longer can make double what you make, $11 to $12 more, and we're still going to have the same working conditions. So why would we take that crappy contract? Oh, by the way, I have to add that they were going to expand, I think, access to dental and vision on their insurance as well. Now, that's all well and good, but here's the thing. The company's CEO, Steve Callahan, made over $11.6 million in 2020 alone in the compensation. That's during the pandemic. What? And by the way, the conditions as well is there were people with COVID hauled in that had to work, well, just 12 to 16-hour days as well. And by the way, the result is Kellogg's made a whopping $1.76 billion in profit. Kellogg also had originally attempted to eliminate premium healthcare, holiday, vacation pay, and retirement benefits to either eliminate or downsize it significantly, all while they're making massive profits. And to top it all off, the company also threatened employees that if they didn't take the contract that was offered, that they would move their company to Mexico. Oh, remember that. So look, this is a common tactic, and it has been for a very, very long time. I remember I worked for a place that actually did end up moving their operations to Mexico, and so this is something that like, if you dare ask for anything, you ask for a wage increase, you ask for good benefits, we're just gonna pack up, we're gonna go to Mexico. So you better, you better not make us move to Mexico, because we'll go. Well, now, here's the thing. In the United States, there's a so-called labor shortage. And that's why, of course, they're seeing all these strikes, because workers have finally realized they have power, especially after they had worked so faithfully through COVID and had taken pay cuts. Again, we're talk about John Deere. John Deere workers took massive pay cuts, while the CEOs and the executives got massive bonuses, and the companies were, again, massively profitable. And these workers are like, what the fuck? All right, fine. Why don't you share some of that profit with us? After all, it was us putting our bodies on the line, us putting our health on the line to work to help you get those massive profits. We would just like you to share a little bit with us, a little bit more. We made sacrifices to make sure the company survived COVID, and maybe you should do the same. And they said, no, We're going to move to Mexico. Losers. Oh, did we say that you were family? Oh, no. No, you're not family at all. No, you're like the, black sheep, distant cousin, whatever. We're not giving you anything. Now, look, if you're threatening to go to Mexico, that's worker intimidation. Now, thankfully, the union did not back down. But what was interesting is now they've shown their hand. That threat was just a threat. There was nothing behind it because they obviously just hired on and are planning to hire permanent scab labor. So they never planned to move to Mexico. Just a worker intimidation tactic. But again, I'm glad the union decided to say, no, you know what? No, we're going to call your bluff. All right? No, we're not at all interested in what you're doing and your contract. We do not accept your contract, and we will continue to strike. Now, Dan Osborne, president of the BCTGM Local 50, that is one of the local unions that represents the nearly 500 Omaha workers, said this. And this is about the two-tiered contract. And the new contract that does provide a pathway to legacy, but says it's too long. Quote, if you're very low in seniority or a transitional employee, if you do the math, it could take you 8 or 9 years to move up. Although it does provide a clear pathway, I think we could do better. I agree. Dan Lewis, a worker at the plant who had been there for 9 years, said this: "We're going to get everyone. We are going to get everybody where they deserve to be. Legacy workers who stand shoulder to shoulder with the transitional employees inside the plant are standing up for them outside on the picket line." So it's good to see that. That's also reporting from NPR. Lewis said this: "I think it sends a message that the union is of one mind, one voice, and we will not leave anybody behind." I love it. There's another quote here. This is Stephanie Sterling, who had worked at the plant since 1989. And by the way, she's hoping to retire in 3 weeks, but has decided to stay on until there is a signed contract. She says this, quote, "It's not about me. It's about we. We are united about this decision to make things right for all of us." You know what? That is what solidarity looks like. I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. Now, the union says, we're not going to stop. We don't plan on stopping. In fact, the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union, which is representing the 1,400 striking workers, said in a statement on Tuesday that it will continue to provide full support to our striking Kellogg's members. The BCTGM is grateful for the outpouring of fraternal support we received from across the labor movement for our striking workers at Kellogg's. Solidarity is critical to this fight. And by the way, solidarity. So look, the thing that we can do for solidarity here, without being out on the picket line, we can boycott Kellogg's until the company decides to put out a better contract. Here's the thing. Kellogg's, if you want to hire scab workers, okay, then we're just not going to buy your products. I can go without your cereal. I can go without your products. And by the way, one of the big problems is these companies have such a big umbrella of products that they have due to, of course, consolidation of the market. That said, and by the way, getting a list of those products to avoid is difficult, can be difficult, and it can be difficult to avoid those things in your household. And I understand that. And it is, of course, giving up something that you actually might enjoy. But at the same time, we have to play hardball, and the only way that we can do it is with our wallets. We don't buy these products, and if you're able to, and inclined, you can also support strike funds. Set up a strike fund for these workers, make sure that they can be able to pay their bills while being on strike for the company. Because understand that these people are literally putting themselves on the line for their fellow workers, for regular people as well. Because this, by the way, what happens in labor, what happens in unions eventually trickles down to people who are not part of unions. Wages go up in an industry for unionized workers. That does tend to filter down to people who are not members of the union as well. And so, again, that is one way that, and one big reason why people who are not involved in the union should still support these strikes and still support these workers, your fellow working person. I understand that, what we're asking for from other people, other consumers, and might be kind of a big ask. I get it. But at the same time, understand from their perspective, dignity in the workplace is not a big thing to ask for. The basics, very basic dignity of work. You've got to have a fair pay, you've got to have fair benefits, a good incentive structure put in place for these employees to work those jobs. If a company can't afford to do that, or if they can't afford that to do, if they can't afford to do that and refuse, then it turns out you shouldn't be in. Because that's just bad business at all. All right. That's what I got. All right. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $20 donation on YouTube for the super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Twitch, nothing new on Twitch, but thank you for the new follow. General Badwolf, appreciate that. Let's see. Let's go over here. Yeah, Facebook. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to butcher your name because I'm terrible with names, but Sayuda Al-Hira Al-Watsusi says, I'm opposed to hitting the below the belt, except when it pertains to big corporations. Hit them below the belt, right in their wallet. 100% agreed. Let's see. Aileen Elizabeth Morin says, thank you for covering this. This isn't getting enough attention. It should get more attention. Democracy Now! Has done an amazing job on this, covering the union, covering the strikes. And so I'm trying to get it out as well, because when it comes down to it, I was a member of a union. I grew up poor, working class. And so this is something that, union solidarity, worker solidarity, this is something that I care a great deal about. And I think, if we were to fix the working conditions and to get together and even do like worker co-ops, which I think is a fantastic idea, increase those and really help with the working conditions, I think we can fix a lot of issues with this country. Because it all comes down to economic conditions, it comes down to labor, it comes down to, of course, people being paid fairly and well for the things that they do. Okay. Means TV has been doing a great job as well, points out Mark Middlestead. Yes. I haven't been watching a lot of Means, but I do think they do some good work. So, all right. That said, I think we're done for the day, as far as stories are concerned. So let's raid in. What do we got going on? Let's do a surfs raid in a little bit. So let's raid into the surfs, the swipes, and we'll do that. To everybody else, thank you all. Tune in tomorrow. We'll have another great show, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here. Thank you. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all tomorrow.
Wet ass keyword.
Give me a break.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
There's insanity in the control room.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.